Welcome, Blue Believers, to another episode of the Stamford Sync, where we are syncing up with everything Chelsea FC. Chelsea 1, Brighton 3. Oh, mate, what this was capitulation at its finest. What a pathetic showing, man. Mate, do you know what? This was like the definition of a game of two halves. The first half, we looked really, really good. We got the goal. The passing was great. 70% possession after the first half. It was all going fairly swimmingly, right? And we go into, it was like the complete reverse of what happened in the Lincoln game, I think, when we go in and Maresca says something that fires up the boys. Whatever Maresca said to the boys at half-time, I don't know. No, do you know what? I'm not even sure who to blame anymore. There's so many fingers to point at so many different people. At the end of the day, the turning point of this game was 5 minutes into the second half. Andre Santos absolutely fumbled the bag with a reckless, terrible back pass when Brighton were pressing really high, and that forced Chalobah into the situation in which he, essentially denied a goal-scoring opportunity and got sent off. And then all of a sudden, after all of that good work, and then we're down to 10 men again, to the second time in as many Premier League games, man. This is tragic, mate. This is really, really, really tragic. I don't know if we're in crisis mode yet. I mean, what does crisis mode even mean at this point? Like, we've all been pretty negative for the last, week, couple of weeks or whatever. At the end of the day, man, this is now one win in 5 games, and that one win came against League One opposition. Do you know what I mean? Brentford, draw. Bayern Munich, loss. Man United, loss. Lincoln, win. And Brighton, loss. And this is our heaviest loss, do you know what I mean? Really, so far, in the grand scheme of things, we absolutely stacked it today, man. Absolutely stacked it today. And there is just fingers to point all over the place, man. I think what we're looking at now is the culmination of kind of everyone, right? Now, what I'll take a second. Right, so like I say, first half good. Second half was just bad to worse to worse to worse. What the second half tells us is, I think the second half is largely a result of having a really young, inexperienced team, because we don't know how to come back from duress. Do you know what I mean? If something bad happens, if we get a player sent off, we go a goal down, we're lacking the fight, the tactical, acumen and the grit in order to dig deep. And it's really annoying because up until what was it? It wasn't until, they didn't equalise until like the 75th, 77th minute or something. Do you know what I mean? So, albeit with 10 men for 20 minutes, we really, really, really dug in. But like I say, man, I think just having such a young team that's ultimately inexperienced, when these situations are happening with your Robert Sanchez getting sent off and your Trevor Chalobah getting sent off and Maresca trying to tactically make loads of substitutions, I think the team itself doesn't know how to dig in. Maresca, I'm not sure. I don't really know what to think about Maresca in this game, man, because the starting lineup seemed reasonable. Yoro Hato got the start in place of what most of us expected to be Josh Achiampong, who did end up coming on later. Enzo Fernandez got the centre attacking role. That's what I predicted in my starting 11. And it made sense, right? Be a little bit more conservative, do you know what I mean? Rather than putting on your Garnachos and your Jamie Gittinses and whatever straight away. And like I say, in the first half, it was obviously really good. But what part does Maresca have to play in this, man? Do we put the blame here squarely on the players fumbling the ball and not taking the instruction? Or is this an issue with Maresca's man management? Maybe there's no fear of the manager. Do you know what I mean? Because, for example, when Badiashile tries to pick up Van Heck, was it? Right towards the end of the game when it was all kicking off. Absolutely all kicking off when there was a penalty shout that, fortunately, it could have been 4-1. We were lucky, really, really lucky to get away with that one. But when Badiashile, who was fit and available as well as Lavia, small positives, small silver linings. But yeah, sorry, Badiashile comes over, Van Heck's on the floor, something happened with Caicedo, and Badiashile grabs him and tries to pick him up. I'm like, that's petulant, man. That is absolutely petulant. You don't do that in a situation that's already heated because there's a penalty shout in the middle of going on. So is stuff like that happening because there's no fear of the manager? Do you know what I mean? Or maybe there's not enough respect of the manager? I'm not 100% sure. Oh, this is a really tough one, man. This is a really, really tough one. That was a really hard game to watch. Well, it was a hard half to watch, right? Absolutely. And you know what? Like, got to give it to Brighton. They took advantage of eventually, they struggled to, but eventually they ended up taking advantage of the fact that we were a man down. It was quite a rough game. These games with Brighton are often quite rough, aren't they? It gets a bit testy and there's generally a bit of fire. I mentioned it in my preview where I think there's, because we've, got our loyalty card there and we buy all their players all the time, I think the Brighton players are a little bit like, yeah, well, we can still beat you or whatever. And also what I'm starting to think now is some of these games are getting a bit testy, and I think this is something we might be seeing in the Benfica game coming up with Jose Mourinho as their manager now. I think another thing about the young team is I think it might be one of those things like try and rile them up and try and rough them up a little bit because they're maybe a bit more inexperienced and they haven't, spent as much time being in these sort of physical situations and stuff. Maybe that's the thing as well. Maybe it's about trying to get in the younger guys' heads, and it looks like it might be working. So the lineup, man, like I say, the starting lineup was okay. Like I say, Yorahata came in, Esteval on the right, Pedro on the left, João Pedro up top. João Pedro, again, another, for 3-4 games in a row now, just basically completely invisible. It looked reasonably bright in the first half, but, completely kind of disappeared. After Chalobah got sent off, all of a sudden it looked like he was trying to be a number 10 and a striker, like cover both of those positions. And obviously that's a lot to ask from any player, isn't it? Especially one who's obviously absolutely knackered. And yeah, I just don't, like I say, man, with this game, I don't even really know where to point the finger anymore. Like I say, I think we can look at Maresca, we can look at the players and the perceived petulance that we kind of, that we're seeing in games and the inability to dig in and that where that level of experience is really important. I think we can point to the board and the sporting directors and stuff and maybe not getting Maresca the right players because playing Yorahata at centre-back was never exactly ideal. Really surprised at Chalobah at the end of the day. I guess is it that surprising? Like I say, man, Chalobah was thrown into a pretty rough situation and position by Andre Santos, and that's a shame in itself because we've all been calling for let's give Andre Santos a chance because Enzo Fernandez looked knackered. And Andre Santos massively fumbled the ball today. Apart from that, he seemed to be having a reasonably good game, but being that he got hooked pretty shortly afterwards. Actually, I think he was Ampon came on and it was Andre Santos that made way. So what that tells you is that Maresca's not happy with him. So maybe we're going to struggle, or he's going to struggle to get back into the team now, especially if Romeo Lavia is fit and available to play again. No, this is just... Like I say, man, it's kind of crisis mode now, I guess. Do you know what I mean? We're not looking strong enough to pick up points against Liverpool. And if we do, it will be 100% against the run of what's been going on. You can only, sort of base it figuring out on what's come before. And like I say, one win in our last 5 at the end of the day is not exactly very positive. The Benfica game... Yeah, a bit of a worry, man. We put them to the sword in the Club World Cup, but they've got Jose Mourinho now. They're going to play really, defensive football 100%. We're going to come up a big European Portuguese low block. And I think that Mourinho's going to try and make those players get in the heads of our guys as well, man. It's like, it really does look like today... As much as I like the idea of the project and buying in young players and stuff, like a few extra experienced heads on the field today might have made all the difference, especially when we went down to 10 men. Do you know what I mean? The leadership wasn't there. Like I say, with Badiashile, picking up Van Hecke at the end of the game, like, mate, what you doing, man? Literally what you're doing is just ridiculous, isn't it? It's absolutely ridiculous. Oh, tomorrow night stream on the Blue Lounge is going to be fun, isn't it? This is going to be interesting. Just where do we go from here, man? Like, where do we go from here? Like I say, until the international break, we've got Benfica and Liverpool. Based on all of our last performances, we'd be lucky to get draws out of either of those games at the moment. And the Champions League, I guess maybe a bit less of an issue because as long as we can get 14, 15 points, something like that, we'll probably get through to the next stage. And we've still got most of the easier opposition coming up. But Liverpool in the Premier League, that's, we're going to go into the international break in in the top 10 maybe. I'm not sure, obviously it depends on what happens around us, doesn't it? But we're really, really, really struggling now, and this needed to be the game that we started to build the momentum. Do you know what I mean? And I've mentioned that a few times. This had to be the game that we went in and built the momentum, and that gave us some fight for the Benfica game. And if we win that, then we got even more fight for the Liverpool game, and then we can go into the international break with a few points under our belt and feeling a bit better about what can come after that. It doesn't help with all of the injuries and stuff as well, man. Do you know what I mean? Fair play to Maresca. He's having to try lots of different stuff at the moment. Yoro Hato in centre-back was a call that a couple of people made yesterday, actually, but it wasn't one that I thought it was a given that Achiampong had played that role. But he did end up coming on later, obviously, when Trevor Chalobah got sent off. And again, Maresca, for the second time in 2 Premier League games, we find ourselves with 5 defenders, 3 midfielders, and 1 attacker when we're, 1-1 at the end of the day. So I'm just not really sure how to feel about this game, man. This is a bit of a passionate, emotional reaction because I'm recording it straight after the game, so I'll probably do a bit of a follow-up tomorrow, once I've sort of settled down and thought about it a bit more. But this is just awful, man. This is just really, really, really bad. How have we come from champions of the world? We got the shiny badge on our chest and whatever, do you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden we can't beat Brighton. And not only can we not beat Brighton, they've essentially battered us. That is not necessarily how it felt during the whole game, do you know what I mean? But when you look at the result, what else can you call it, man? It's slaughtered, and it was a massive capitulation from us, absolutely huge capitulation. And like I say, what I'm starting to feel concerned about now is that the cracks in the project are becoming obvious to other teams. Do you know what I mean? You can take advantage of us, because we've got lots of young players without experience and stuff. You can kind of use some dark arts and some intangible, not necessarily tactical football stuff to unsettle our team. And I think that's just something we're going to keep seeing going forward. So we're going to have to see what happens with this, man. If we go into the international break without a win in 8 games or 7 games or whatever it is, do you know what I mean, since our last win, proper win, do you know what I mean? Obviously Lincoln, fair enough, but we absolutely had to win that game. If we'd lost to Lincoln, then yeah, 100% we'd be in crisis mode, definitely. But yeah, if we go into the international break without any wins out of all of these games, then I think we're looking at a pretty massive January. Like I say, it felt easier to point to Maresca as the issue in the Man United game than this one, but I'd love to know what you guys think in the comments, man. Is Maresca, who, if we can order the fault, who is it? So we've got Maresca, the sporting directors, and the players, right? For this loss in isolation, what is the 1, 2, 3 order? For me, it feels like the players really let us down today. Like I say, Andre Santos let us down, and I think the defence let us down for the last 2 goals in extra time, ultimately. But yeah, at the end of the day, man, Badia Shields come off of a really long injury. This is his first lot of minutes. Achiampong's 19 years old. Do you know what I mean? Yoro Hato, obviously not hugely experienced in playing that centre-back role either. So yeah, it's just a bit of a difficult one, isn't it, man? But like I say, for me, it feels like players are the worst to blame at this point for today. Then I would probably say the sporting directors, I guess, because looking at the lineup and stuff, we're without a proper centre attacking midfielder and a centre back, which we really could have used, and then maybe Maresca at the bottom. But I'd love to know who's your 1, 2, 3 of finger pointing. Who do we blame today? Give me your 1, 2, 3s in the comments, guys. Right, nice one, short one today. I'm gonna wrap it up there, but I'll be back tomorrow and I'll try and do a bit more of a thought out, sort of real proper look at it, where I'm not just giving my emotional reaction. Nice one, guys. If you're around tomorrow night, come and catch us on the Blue Lounge, because it'll be a good stream tomorrow night for sure. Come and voice your thoughts and opinions in the comments, and we'll chat and react to them and stuff. Nice one. I'll catch up with you all very, very soon. Take it easy. Peace.